Hello and welcome to the Business Channel in association with CIBSE, the Chartered Institution of Building Services Engineers. Today looking at innovative engineering and building performance. Buildings account for almost 50% of damaging carbon emissions, yet innovative services design can bring dramatic improvements in energy efficiency. CIBSE members continue to create the most environmentally friendly systems in major projects across the globe. So what innovations are we seeing in the way that buildings are engineered, and which are the solutions that can provide energy efficiency, lower carbon and achieve efficiency for clients?
Well, these days we look at buildings from a different perspective than we used to, because of course we have to deal with the issues of energy and climate change. What we're finding now is that building design is being influenced very much by alternative thinking about how you use spaces, but equally how you incorporate new technologies. New technologies and new materials are having fundamental impacts positively on the way we look at the way people use space and how efficient we can make them to be. There is a lot of innovative ideas about how buildings should look in the future, but my main concern is actually the fact that we don't build that many new buildings. What we have is the buildings we have today will be with us for a long time, and I think the real issue on design and how buildings look for the future is going to be what we do with our existing building stock, and I think that's the real challenge for the industry, to get to grips with solutions of how we can improve our existing building stock over time.
Remeha Commercial is a pioneer in condensing and low-carbon heating technology. Their aim is to provide affordable, sustainable solutions to help the UK meet its target of an 80% reduction in carbon emissions by 2050. I spoke to Managing Director Mark Northcott about Remeha's new concept in heat recovery technology systems, its financial and environmental benefits, and why it's an optimal solution for retrofit.
One in particular is I believe, very significant. It's something we're calling super condensing. But I think it's also correct to say that we have got to the point in the boiler market where reinventing the wheel is very difficult. We've had many firsts over the last 20 years, first into condensing, first into low NOx, first into room sealing, commercial boilers, so an awful lot of firsts. But super condensing is something that we're really on our own with at the moment, and it is a brand new idea and actually turns a lot of the conventional wisdom about condensing boilers and indeed heating systems on its head. So in its own way, I think it is as revolutionary as condensing was 25 years ago.
Now, how is super condensing different from condensing?
The fundamental difference is that most condensing boilers in the UK are installed on old systems, 82 flow, 71 return, which is not really the right conditions to get the maximum efficiency out of a condensing boiler. What super condensing does is it means you can put the super condensing boiler on any system and you will get the maximum efficiency. I think a good analogy is to think of driving your car at 55 miles an hour, you get 60 miles to the gallon. If you put your foot down and do 100 miles an hour, you only get 30. Well, the point about super condensing is you can drive at 100 miles an hour and still get 60 miles to the gallon. So the seasonal efficiency, the actual amount that you spend on your fuel, is significantly better than a condensing boiler.
What do you think it is that's driving innovation? Is it people want to spend less on energy, they want to be low carbon? Is it the regulations? What do you think it is?
Certainly the cost of fuel is a significant part of a business, and certainly if you look at something like a small hotel, if their heating bill is £40,000 a year, and with some of the equipment we have now, we believe we could halve that fuel bill. You know, to gain that extra amount of money as revenue, how many rooms do they have to fill? How many extra guests do they have to actually book into the hotel? Yet by just installing a modern super condensing system, they can halve that £40,000 fuel bill. The other thing as well is that we're not asking people to sacrifice anything. Hoteliers or where people are, sports centres where people want warm showers and hot water, there will be no deterioration of service from this product. So it's profitability for small businesses, it's carbon reduction commitment perhaps for larger businesses. Legislation is definitely driving the business.
And what do you see as the future over the next few years in boilers?
I think the main thing is supercondensing, because I really think this is a huge opportunity to take the next step. This is a condensing technology that has a payback over and above a condensing boiler. That was thought unthinkable a year ago, 2 years ago. The technology actually involves us as condensing boiler manufacturers accepting that most of them aren't installed properly. If we're to hit this low carbon target, the problem isn't the buildings that we're going to build in the next 50 years, it's the problem is the buildings that are already here, which is by 2050 will be some 60% of the stock. So unless we can get into those buildings and cut the carbon in those buildings, we're not going to hit our targets. So actually going forward, retrofit, refurbishment is far more important towards hitting these carbon targets than new build. Supercondensing is the perfect solution to push the efficiencies by another 10 to 15% over what perceived wisdom says you can do.
In the industry, it's generally accepted that most buildings, particularly in the UK, you generally accept that about 30% of energy is pure waste. If you look at that, that's a kind of way of putting together a thought process that we could immediately improve with the right type of investment in buildings. We could improve our energy performance by about 30%. But equally, there's been some very useful and interesting studies done in Australia whereby they've looked at refurbishment of buildings and they've measured the performance of people using those buildings once the refurbishment has been done, and they've found quite startling improvements in productivity. So I think the way in which buildings are measured in the future is not just about energy, but it's also about how the usability of a building, the productivity.
Cummins Power Generation is a subsidiary of Cummins Inc., the US giant, which had a turnover of $18 billion in 2012. Cummins Energy Solutions business is the unit which brings together Cummins products and technical expertise to design, manage and operate innovative, economically sound and environmentally sustainable solutions. I spoke to the director of Cummins Energy Solutions business, Andrew Stone.
A lot of our business are commercial sales. We sell the product at the end of the factory through distribution. Here we're trying to go a step further, move down the development channel and actually sell someone a solution.
Now, what particular sectors do you find that you're selling into?
We're looking for verticals where it has the necessary requirements for self-generation. So there's a number of factors that we're looking for. We're looking for that use heat and power at the same time, because that's a function of how we generate our energy. We're looking for people who are running for prolonged hours. We need to recover the cost of this over a prolonged period. So we're looking for people running 6,000 to 7,000 hours a year. We're looking for people who have distributed, so within their premise they have the ability to distribute the heat and the electricity.
Now, innovation is very important to CIBSE members, isn't it? Always looking for products and solutions that perform better and give more bang for their buck. How important is having new products or techniques in the pipeline to you?
Well, there's only real two certainties in our life, and one is that efficiency goes up, so we spend millions of dollars trying to increase the conversion of fuel such as gas into electricity at a higher rate. And we're talking about millions of dollars to get 1 or 2 percentage points. And the other one is that emissions come down. The demand to get emissions down, they're the two constants in our life. But obviously people like CIBSE are interested in other elements, such as that we have the engineering ability, the project management ability that aligns with their needs for the delivery of that service. And then there's the other elements, such as footprint of the product, noise, vibration, the availability of heat at different temperature grades. That's all very important, and the development of that product is focused on delivering those. So we have a process which allows us to develop a product from concept to final delivery and installation and commissioning, and we try and involve the customers and the feedback at every part of that, so that we don't try and second guess what's important to our customers.
So what innovations are we seeing in the way that buildings are engineered from the point of view of power generation, and how does this affect the way that you work with CIBSE members?
The solution to the CIBSE member is CIBSE are looking in their buildings to reduce the footprint both from CO2 and cost to their potential clients. the use of a cogen plant addresses both of those issues. So by installing a cogen plant within a building, you reduce the overall energy consumption of that building. Therefore, when it's set against conventional generation of heat and power, it reduces the overall CO2 footprint as well. And then the work we're doing and developing is how do we do that better? So how do we increase that saving? How do we reduce that CO2 footprint? How do we make it easier for the CIBSE member to install that engine physically, interface with his building systems? Then in the commercial and the contractual side of it, how do we make ourselves easier to work through project management, engineering? So trying to understand, not standing back behind the factory doors and saying, here's a product, help yourself. It's how do we help him interface that product into his building.
One of the big initiatives in the industry is to look at a thing called Building Information Management Systems. Its acronym being BIM. Now that's a big drive from the government in the UK, and BIM is about interoperability of information exchange and putting together a package of information that is fully coordinated before a project hits the site. Now that actually is a very useful way forward in terms of improving the productivity and the efficiency of the delivery process of a construction project. I think that's probably the single biggest initiative.
Knauf Insulation is part of the German family-owned Knauf Group, which is the UK's leading insulation company and the UK's only manufacturer of glass mineral wool, rock mineral wool and extruded polystyrene insulation products. It's one of the most respected and progressive names in European building products. First, I spoke to the Technical Development Manager Stephen Wise about the support that they offer through their Technical Advisory Centre.
We have a technical advisory centre which is based in St Helens, and the first function of that is to offer building professionals advice on the correct product for the application. Moving beyond that, they also are fully accredited to do U-value calculations, SAP analysis, condensation analysis, provide method statements for installation, and we're just taking on the capacity to be able to do WUFI hydrothermal modelling. Sounds interesting, and it is extremely exciting if you're technical like me.
What is WUFI then? Go on.
WUFI is a very complex modelling software that enables you to model hydrothermal characteristics of buildings over time. Now, hydrothermal is the transport of moisture through building fabric. And when you're refurbishing old buildings, it's very important that the measures you take don't actually damage the building fabric.
Now you're very much on the side of leading the specifications and the new developments and the new technology rather than just following what the regulations are.
We want to understand how buildings actually perform, especially in refurbishment, when we start applying the levels of insulation that are required to meet the requirements of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive and the government's ambitions to reduce carbon emissions. So we work with a number of academic organisations on research on whole building energy performance, monitoring real buildings both in use and in special test conditions.
Well, here with me now is Mike Ormischer, who is Technical Director for Knauf Insulation Northern Europe. Hello to you.
Hello.
Now, looking at the future, you see a much greater collaboration between manufacturers like yourselves and CIBSE members.
Absolutely. We are very strong in our innovation strategy looking at in situ performance. And this is something that we can change. If you're building to building regulations, there is a limit. There is a standard, and you achieve that standard, and then you provide a building. For Knauf Insulation and for our strategic partners, we're looking at in situ performance and monitoring. So we can prove by testing and working with academic institutions that there is a huge gap between as built and as designed. So for us, it's about system manufacture, taking out the workmanship element of this as much as we can by building systems in factories, modern methods of construction, that sort of thing. So for Knauf, innovation is about taking the construction away from the building site and offering these systems. And we can only do that with the likes of CIBSE members and our collaborative strategic partners who understand what the building is being used for. That gives us a massive insight into the technologies they require. So we don't build in cost, we make sure we build it on time, and the maximum for us is to get the performance absolutely spot on. One of the services that we do offer is providing intelligent information to designers, and CIBSE members will be very much aware of BIM, which is Building Information Modelling. By 2016, all public sector buildings will be required to work to a BIM model or a BIM technology. Knauf Insulation are very well placed to work with BIM. In fact, most of our products are actually BIM enabled at the moment. In the Nordic countries and as far as the United States of America, BIM has been used for many, many years. In fact, they have standards far more advanced than the UK. By 2016, funnily enough, the United Kingdom will probably be number 2 in terms of its BIM technology, and Knauf are very well placed to offer that service to the CIBSE engineers.
Now, you're unusual in that you don't actually think building regulations are tough enough on insulation.
What we're seeing now in the United Kingdom is house builders and even industrial commercial buildings still being built to regulations that are 3, 4, 5 years out of date. So as long as you have your planning permission and your control over the building that you've designed within those regulations, there is no need to actually build current regulations, which is a very difficult thing to do when you're innovating for future product development. So what we tend to do is we try to launch products that offer advantages in terms of energy efficiency, acoustic control and fire performance. But it's very, very difficult to get those products and systems accepted in the market when consortiums and designers are still working with old regulations. So for Knauf and for many other organisations in the industry, it would be far better for innovation if government was stricter and more demanding with the regulations that they do launch into the United Kingdom.
I really do believe that countries like the UK should be investing more in research and development on how we can put together more cost-effective buildings. Now, if we come back to what we said about earlier in BIM, part of the strategy with the government is to, on public procured buildings, is to take out 20% of cost. Well, the only way we're going to take out 20% of cost, in my opinion, is to spend more on research and development to get our methodologies and our technologies right. So for me, I think the way forward is we need to look at how we can fund more research and development.
Delaby is Europe's leading manufacturer of point-of-use water control solutions and sanitary fittings. With over 30 years' experience, the company provides innovative, hygienic and sustainable solutions for highly frequented environments in both the public and commercial sectors. I spoke to the Managing Director, Richard Stammers, about innovations in water sustainability and also the need to balance reductions in water consumption with hygiene standards.
The main issue is water sustainability. We are currently launching a range of products that reduce the water consumption right down to 3 litres per minute across the whole range. That in itself will reduce potentially water consumption by up to 90% for some customers. If we took, for example, a very busy service station where they might have 20 or 30 basins, the 90% water saving could actually equate to savings of between £40,000 and £50,000 per annum just in water alone. So everything we do is based on saving water, but as we reduce the flow rate within the product, we have to be very mindful of the fact that we're trying to balance this lower demand of water with hygiene, because as the water becomes less, then there is a potential for more bacteria to build up within the taps and the fittings, and that in itself can cause a problem. Not so much in some of our more light commercial environments, but when we talk about the healthcare market, where we are quite strong and have specific products tailored for that market, then of course we have to look at the hygiene side of things as well. Now, to overcome hygiene issues, we are looking at new innovations within the manufacture and construction of taps. We're one of the first manufacturers within Europe and the UK to redesign the way we manufacture the taps. So traditionally, you would find that most brass manufacturers use a sand casting technique to form the shape within the tap. The sand casting technique has been used for many, many years and is well tried and tested. But what that does leave is a residue and a pitted interior of the tap, a very rough finish to the inside of the tap. And when you have reduced flow rate, there is a tendency for this water to stagnate and to be building up within the tap itself. And the bacteria has lots of niches and crevices to catch hold of and to form a biofilm. So in the last 2 years we've developed a new manufacturing technique where we use hot oil injection methods, and that produces a perfectly smooth finish within the inside of the tap or the fitting on the terminal fitting. And that we've had independently studied and have found that that reduces the bacterial count 14 times compared to a traditional sandcast tap. In addition to that, we're also looking at other ways and other techniques. We now offer a duty flush on most of our electronic range of taps and showers, so that if the tap or shower isn't used within 24 hours, it will automatically flush itself and purge the water through the system and keep the water moving through the system, albeit that at a reduced flow rate. And we find that that also has a huge impact on keeping the bacterial levels down within the system itself.
Now, do you find that you're mostly working on new build, or is there also as much retrofit and refurb?
It's mainly new build. We also do retrofit applications, but when we're talking about new build, it gives us a much better opportunity to influence the design and the specification right from the start. We are talking about water savings and sustainability, but we're also talking about life cycle cost with this type of product. And when you're in a new build situation, that's something that can be taken into account. So when we look at the specification of a range of our products, we would be looking at not just the initial cost, but the ongoing cost and the water savings that that particular product can give. We estimate that on a standard product, we can actually show that the capital outlay would actually be recouped within a matter of weeks sometimes, not months, just by the water saving alone. That doesn't include then, if we go into the wider macro perspective of the new build project, the impact that actually saving water can have further back up the line. So if you are reducing the amount of flow within the taps, still having user comfort but having a reduced flow rate, you can reduce the pipe sizes and you can reduce the actual heat demand within the building itself, and that can all add up to overall energy savings within the buildings.
One of the things that we're trying to do within CIBSE is to promote engineering in the built environment as a career of choice, working with schools, more with the government, getting the message across in a different way. In the past, we tended to explain ourselves as people that provide heating and air conditioning systems. The way I like to think us moving forward is people that are providing solutions for buildings that make buildings come to life. It makes the building dynamic. Equally, we look at the energy efficiency of the building and how that can contribute to the important issue of climate change. Especially when you're working with architects, when you're working with lighting systems, you're putting things into a building to make a space come to life for people to use those buildings, to live and play in those buildings. And that's why I enjoy the environment of building services engineering so much.
The Anglo Group is a leading UK-based technology and engineering recruitment agency which provides key staff into various sectors in engineering. With over 25 years' experience, they have an in-depth knowledge of the construction and engineering sectors. First, I spoke to senior consultant Graham Simons about the growing need for technology-savvy engineers with green credentials.
Well, I think particularly in the modern era, we've been asked for a lot more people with low carbon and sustainability knowledge. That's much more of an important part of the construction of buildings these days. So there's a definite element of that with especially the younger engineers being involved on that side of things. You're also looking at people who are much more computer literate. 5 or 10 years ago, a lot more of it was sort of hands-on design with a drawing board. Nowadays, with the relevant design packages, you're looking at everything being computerised and people being asked to provide the full package when they come and join the firm.
And are you finding that there's any particular sector that's looking for more personnel at the moment?
Me personally, I'm finding there's a strong demand on the design side, which is very encouraging given the last few years haven't been as positive as it could have been, but often the consultancy side tends to pick up first, and at the moment I'm seeing a big demand for design engineers, particularly sort of at the junior and intermediate level, which is very encouraging because it means that there are many clients out there looking to bring engineers on to develop them up to more of a senior level with a long-term look at the industry.
In today's marketplace, there is a severe shortage of suitably qualified and experienced engineers, resulting in an increase in competition to attract the most skilled and relevant candidates. We have seen a marked increase in the number of inquiries and applications from overseas looking to come here and live and work in the UK, and this can go some way to offset the skill shortage. However, much more needs to be done to attract and increase the number of students in the UK to want to become engineers and then pursue a career within the building services industry. It is these young graduates of the future who will become the leaders of the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers.
And what do you think could be done to attract more people into engineering?
There is a lot being done already. I think it's through Engineering UK and various associated companies that are going in now to a number of secondary schools around the country, trying to hold exhibitions within the sciences and engineering to give them a taste of what it is like perhaps to become an engineer. And if that continues and at a school level, I believe that more children will consider a career in engineering, and that is absolutely essential.
We're trying to find the ways how we can help our clients to perform better. So we're developing a few different services, so we hope it will help a lot to our clients. We're trying to create some engineering talent portal where we actually put together a few different services, starting with traditional recruitment and job board and industry journal, and also payroll services. So using our online portal, clients will be able to service absolutely different tasks, actually, starting from entry-level positions and finishing high-level, top-level actual positions.
Now, how do you see your company developing over the next few years?
We think we will enhance our presence on the market, web market and traditional recruitment market, and we developing product that actually will help to improve communication between clients and candidates. And also we're trying to bring students and graduates to the actual picture and help companies to communicate with young generation of engineers.
CIBSE really is changing. It's moving to a more thought leadership role. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give engineers and others outside the engineering profession a home to come to where they can share ideas, share their experiences, share their knowledge in a non-controversial, safe environment which the industry can then learn from. I think also the other thing that CIBSE is moving forward on is the whole idea of knowledge management, making knowledge much more fingertip accessible to the engineers that are practicing out there around the globe. Because of course we are an international organisation and we have to bear in mind that internationally people are seeking more and more knowledge. And I think CIBSE is a creation of that knowledge and a place where people can also impart their own learning and knowledge. So I think it's about how we can collectively bring together the capabilities and learning across the globe into our knowledge management process that then is accessible by all our members.
So new building solutions and services are ready and available, and the need to cut costs and reduce carbon are two of the driving forces which are leading innovation. By investing in new technologies, attracting a highly skilled workforce, sharing ideas and adopting a more integrated approach, we can be better equipped to meet the government's carbon reduction targets. And CIBSE members are at the heart of the drive to develop new solutions like the ones we've featured here, which are innovative and deliver optimal building performance. Well, that's all we've got time for at the moment, but if you'd like to know more about any of the organisations that we featured in this programme, then visit our website, thebusinesschannel.tv. Bye-bye for now.